Well, it comes down to this 72nd hole. Travis Fulton has got to get it up and down to win his first Masters. That looks pretty good. Oh, he made it!
We're the Jacksonville University golf team.
You're watching The Stripe Show with Travis Fulton.
Hello everybody, welcome to The Stripe Show. I'm your host, Travis Fulton, and we're back here live at the beautiful Jacksonville Golf and Country Club. And look at this, the sun is out, spring is here. I promise it's been a long winter across the United States. But you know what? Golf is in effect because it's Masters Week, the unofficial start of the golf season. We got a packed show for here today, so let's get to it and get you striping it. Big week in the game of golf this week. In fact, the tour on the LPGA Tour, they had to go into today, the ANA Inspiration, the first major championship in the golf season. And congratulations to Pernilla Lingberg, her first win on the LPGA Tour. Well, and she makes it a major championship. Crazy stuff last night, 4 playoff holes under the lights in the dark, and they came back this morning in the desert, and she got her first W. Really cool story. And speaking of cool stories, how about Ian Poulter? He needed a win at the Houston Open to get into Augusta, and he got the job done. His first stroke play title on the PGA Tour. What a time to make it happen. And you know what? You're going to see Ian Poulter at Augusta National this week. And speaking of Augusta National, it kicked off yesterday, one of my favorite events, the kids drive, chip, and putt. So impressive are these kids. Their skills are through the roof, but how they conduct themselves, just really, really impressive stuff. And you know what? It was the kids yesterday, and today on the Stripe Show, it's about you. Driver, chipper, and putter. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want to help you drive the golf ball better. I want to help you chip the golf ball better, and I want to help you putt the ball better and get it into the hole. We've got some really good information coming your way, some on-course experiences, and a number of videos that we're going to break down and get those 3 areas of the game much better. So let's get to it. It's time to talk about the driver first, and kicking it off is our first Show Us Your Swing, and this one comes from Saji in California.
Hi, I'm Saji Palavivatana from Sacramento, California. The thing that I wanted to ask you was, what's a better way for me to get quicker swing speed? So here's my swing.
Hey Saji, thanks for the video. Really good swing. Very technically sound going back. That's a beautiful position. Love how you come down in delivery. You got good forward shaft lean, and then of course a nice balanced finish. And you asked, how can you pick up more speed? What's the best way to do that? And I would take this swing and I would get everything moving faster, and I'll work you into what's called kind of a speed progression exercise, where you're doing some things right-handed, and then you do some things left-handed, and then you do some things taking a step with the lead foot, and then you do some things taking a step with the right foot, and I'll demonstrate that for you. But right now, you got a very good looking golf swing, but you probably have a governor internally that allows you to go a certain speed, and we've got to get you to swing the club faster and get comfortable with that. At first, you'll probably feel like you're a little bit out of control, but through the speed progression and doing the drills and doing it each day, say for 10 to 15 minutes, you'll start to get comfortable swinging the golf club faster. So I want to show you how to do it kind of conventional first, then taking a step with the left foot, and then finally a step with the right foot. Here it comes. Saji, well done. Absolutely love that golf swing. Man, great turn going back. Club's in a great spot. Love what I'm seeing here through impact and love what I'm seeing through the finish. Now the question is how do we speed that up, right? And we have this internal governor. You don't need to be working about technique, worrying about all that. We just got to get you swinging faster. And what I want you to do is I've got a little radar here set up, and I'm just going to position this radar up off my left shoulder. We're going to work into a little sequence here, a sequence of 3. The first one, you're going to get in there and you're going to swing nice and full like that. Now that one there for me, about 103. Now I'm going to try to go faster. Second one, I'm going to go faster than 103. There it is, 105. Third one, going to be crazy fast. Watch this, crazy. I'm just really getting after it from a speed perspective, and you can see how my body starts to recruit. You can see how I'm starting to get over here more. I'm starting to wind up more, my left foot come up. I'm really starting to get more dynamic with my legs. Watch those 3 swings back. I want you to do the same thing. First one's normal speed, second one's double, third one's triple. Get after that, rest a second, and then do it again. And as you work through that, then add a golf ball, right? Add a golf ball to it. Don't worry about where it goes, but just swinging it fast. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. Getting after it. I'm breaking through this governor. I'm going to let it go. I hit that one right in the center. I think I'm going to swing like that forever. But we've got to learn to swing faster. We've got to break through those internal governors. I like that little sequence of 3. Get a radar to help push yourself, and I think your club head speed is going to increase. We really appreciate that video, and I want to stay with the driver. In fact, I want to share with you a little experience I had on the golf course last week as it pertains to one of the tee box. Check it out. All right, walking to the next tee here. And this tee box, like so many others you probably play, what do you notice here? Which way is that tee box pointing? It's pointing clear over here to the right. And the fairway is off to the left. And we get into this situation from time to time, and this is a really good example. Check this out. I'm looking right down the center of this tee box, and I'm going way over here to the bunker in the water. And yet the fairway is back over here to the left. So this is a situation that we have to overcome from time to time on the golf course, right? The sight lines that the architect is giving us oftentimes through the angle of the tee is not always right down the center of the fairway. This highlights the opportunity for a good routine and good alignment. All right, this happens all the time. We get to that tee box, and the tee box is going one way, and the fairway is clear over there, and that was a pretty darn good example, but it happens to all of us. Now, a couple things. When you practice on the range here, it's good to set clubs in. You can see I've got my target line here, right? So I can get in here, set my face square, and then I can get my feet, knees, hips, shoulders, everything, you know, running pretty parallel to that, right? You know, if I kind of got myself going this way, or I got myself going this way, I'd sense that. So it really helps square me up. And of course, I can set another club down along my feet. Now, what you want to do, as you've got that going out there towards that target, is when you look out there, you want to be able to see that target, right, in the same spot every time. If I got myself going this way, you know, I'd have to kind of look back over here, or if I got more open, then I'd have to kind of look more back across that way. So what happens is you want to train your perception from good alignment just by swiveling your head and seeing that target in that same spot every time. All right, so practice from that symmetrical position, if you will, and of course the range is usually pretty square. Now, after that, then get rid of these clubs, and you do a little drill that I call sprinkle the infield. That's right, sprinkle the infield. What we're going to do is we're going to aim now back across the range. I'm not going to aim right down the range. I'm going to get myself kind of going left, where it's not as symmetrical now, over here to the left corner of the range. So I aim the face at that tree there up the left side. I'm going to see that target in the same spot, but I don't feel now as symmetrical with the range. I feel like I'm kind of going back across the range, much like you would on that tee box. So this is a good way to practice and work on the alignment with your driver. So I pulled that one just a little bit, but what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and bring the next target over about 5 yards, and then the next target over about 5 yards, and I'm just going to work back across the range until I maybe have to go over here to the other side and start aiming to the right. So change up your alignment here on the range. Don't make everything so symmetrical or parallel. Work in some of those non-symmetrical, non-parallel, and train your eye to get more comfortable with that. And if you can do that, well, you're going to have more success on the golf course when everything doesn't line up. All right, good stuff there. Let's go to our next Show Us Your Swing. This one is coming from Rachel, also in California.
Hi Travis, my name is Rachel and I'm from Golden, Colorado, and I'd really like your advice on this shot. I'm in a little bit of the rough, I'm about 100 yards out. The app is telling me to use my 7-iron. There's a little bit of a decline here, so I'm not really sure what the best way to do this is, and if you give me some advice, that would be great.
Okay, Rachel, let's see if I can help you here. It sounds like the slope is kind of going down that way, right? So it's going away from you. Anytime the slope is going that way, what you want to do is you can play the ball position a little further back in your stance, say a little closer to your right foot. Make sure you lean the shaft here a little bit more forward like that, and then put a little more weight over on your lead foot. Kind of lean into your lead foot just a bit at address, so say 60-40 on the left foot. Now, once you do that, then we get into the swing here, and you do a good job hinging your wrists, good shoulder turn, and then as you swing through, that particular one you missed it because the club head was too high, right? So what we got to do is we got to get that club head swinging more down that slope line, and that setup would help you. So we're going to fast forward here, and in this particular swing, we would make the same setup adjustments, and then as you turn back, a good turn, good wrist hinge, but this time you got the club head to swing a bit more down, and particularly down that slope line, right? And what's going to really help you do that is from the top of the swing, what I want you to do is feel like the weight shifts more to the lead foot. See how your arms are swinging down, but your lower body's not shifting this way. I want that lower body to shift first down that slope line, and then from there you can turn and go get it with the club head hitting the grass, just as you did with that one. So I want to show you those setup adjustments and then how to get that weight initiate in the downswing. That's going to help you on the downslope, but I also think it's going to help you overall on a flat lie.
All right, Rachel, good stuff, and thank you so much for sending in the video. And I want to share with you something that's not only going to help you in that particular situation where you're in the rough and looks like you had a little bit of a downhill, but also I think that's going to help you with your full swing. So I've got my iron here like a 7-iron, and what I want you to do when you set up to it, I want you to make sure you just take your spine and just kind of tilt it a little to the right like this, right? Now, you're doing a good job going back. When you come down into impact, I want you to make sure that your spine feels like it stays a little to the right. See how my right shoulder is a little lower? Right? So my right shoulder is lower as I'm turning through and not up here, right? So my shoulders are not level like this. That'll cause you to kind of swing above it versus your right shoulder down like this. So we kind of feel that little tilt to the right. And then watch this as I swing through. I'm going to feel like my lower back has a little dish to it. See how I've got a little dish here? Kind of extending back rather than kind of rolling forward like this. So you can just practice that with little swings, feeling that little tilt to the right, feeling that little dish in the lower body, and that'll help that club head hit down in there. And that's key, right? We want that club head to kind of get down in there in that long grass on that downhill lie and even off a nice flat lie like this. So good setup. And there it is. My right shoulder, you can see here, just kind of work kind of underneath a little dish in the lower back. And then we start getting used to bumping the ground a little bit and taking a divot. And that's a good thing. You want to bump the ground and start taking a little divot, and you'll produce those nice high shots that feel great. Thank you so much for sending in the video. I hope that helps. I think it's going to help a lot of people actually with their iron game into impact. Enough of the full swing. We've talked about the driver. Now it's time to go to the chip shot, and I want to share with you a little technique first. chipping, you got to have it, right? Minimum air, maximum roll. How much do you want the ball to roll? Well, you should have different clubs you can chip with. My pitching wedge for me is about a 1-to-1 ratio, and I like that. Half carry, half roll. And for that to happen, you've got to make sure that the shaft lean is consistent. I see so many of you kind of vary that shaft lean, and it's hard for distance control and how much it runs out. A lot of you err with too much shaft lean, and then that leading edge gets caught in the ground. So be conservative. Get the shaft lean pointing just a little bit here, just left of the belt buckle. And then from there, 2 tips in the motion. Let your chest turn through, and then give yourself this soft landing, arms, club pointing down to the ground. So conservative shaft lean forward. I turn the chest through. Look at this, nice soft landing, club pointing down to the ground. I see a lot of you, of course, where you stall out here, you kind of stay here, and then you flip it and the club finishes too high. And that was about 1-to-1. Carried it about 7 or 8 paces, ran out about 7 or 8 paces, maybe a little more because it's downhill and the greens are pretty quick here. So again, just slightly forward, a little turn in the chest. Look at this, nice soft landing, not rigid, nice and soft here with the arms, club pointing down to the ground. Get that about 1-to-1. That's a good baseline, and then you can start to go. All right, so now I've got my 8-iron, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to land it in the same spot, and this is going to run out a little bit more. Same shaft lane, same finish, and there it goes. Now it's running a lot more. Let me show you. Here we go. So we're walking up to the front of the green, and I landed it about 6 paces on. So 6 paces onto the front, nice safe spot. And then you can see as we continue to go down, there's my 2 yellow balls that I hit with my pitching wedge. So that's about a 1-to-1 ratio. And that's what I like with my pitching wedge. And as we continue on down the hill, you can see here, much further down the hill, closer to the flag, that's my 8-iron. All right, so my 8-iron for my longer chips, my pitching wedge, kind of my baseline at 1-to-1. And then of course, if I wanted to go shorter, I could have used my sand wedge for that short chip. So let's look at about 2 to 3 clubs. Improve with your chipping technique, distance control gets better, and watch your scores go down. All right, so chipping situations, and we have this, right? We miss it, we're on the same shelf of the green, and to chip the ball, the first thing is you gotta have a pretty good lie. And you can see I'm in the first cut here, I've got a good lie. Even if I was in the rough, kind of up in here, if the ball was sitting up, I could still chip it, but as soon as that ball starts to sit down, you can't chip it. Now, a couple other things to consider. Usually you gotta be pretty close to the same surface of the green. You can see if I walk up here, it's just a little bit uphill, but I really don't have to loft the ball up in the air that much. So what is happening between the ball and say the front of the green, and then from there, the front of the green to your flag stick. And you can see where this flag is here, you know, I don't have that much green for the ball to run out. So I've got my lob wedge here, and I can come in here and just hit a little chip shot like this, land it on the front of the green, and look at that, it's gonna run out just like that. Now, I like lob wedge, sand wedge for some of those short chips. Hey, sorry about that, little technical difficulties as we get green side. We talked about the driver. Now we're going to the short game, and it's time to talk some chipping. Here's some technique to consider. Chipping, you gotta have it, right? Minimum air, maximum roll. How much do you want the ball to roll? Well, you should have different clubs you can chip with. My pitching wedge for me is about a 1-to-1 ratio, and I like that. Half carry, half roll. And for that to happen, you've got to make sure that the shaft lean is consistent. I see so many of you kind of vary that shaft lean, and it's hard for distance control and how much it runs out. A lot of you err with too much shaft lean, and then that leading edge gets caught in the ground. So be conservative. Get the shaft lean pointing just a little bit here, just left of the belt buckle. And then from there, 2 tips in the motion. Let your chest turn through, and then give yourself this soft landing, arms, club pointing down to the ground. So conservative shaft lean forward. I turn the chest through. Look at this, nice soft landing, club pointing down to the ground. I see a lot of you, of course, where you stall out here, you kind of stay here, and then you flip it and the club finishes too high. And that was about 1-to-1. Carried it about 7 or 8 paces, ran out about 7 or 8 paces, maybe a little more because it's downhill and the greens are pretty quick here. So again, just slightly forward, a little turn in the chest. Look at this, nice soft landing, not rigid, nice and soft here with the arms, club pointing down to the ground. Get that about 1-to-1. That's a good baseline, and then you can start to go. All right, so now I've got my 8-iron, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to land it in the same spot, and this is going to run out a little bit more. Same shaft lane, same finish, and there it goes. Now it's running a lot more. Let me show you. Here we go. So we're walking up to the front of the green, and I landed it about 6 paces on. So 6 paces on to the front, nice safe spot. And then you can see as we continue to go down, there's my 2 yellow balls that I hit with my pitching wedge. So that's about a 1-to-1 ratio. And that's what I like with my pitching wedge. And as we continue on down the hill, you can see here, much further down the hill, closer to the flag, that's my 8-iron. All right, so my 8-iron for my longer chips, my pitching wedge, kind of my baseline at 1-to-1. And then of course, if I wanted to go shorter, I could have used my sand wedge for that short chip. So let's look at about 2 to 3 clubs. Improve with your chipping technique, distance control gets better, and watch your scores go down. All right, so chipping situations, and we have this, right? We miss it, we're on the same shelf of the green, and to chip the ball, the first thing is you gotta have a pretty good lie. And you can see I'm in the first cut here, I've got a good lie. Even if I was in the rough, kind of up in here, if the ball was sitting up, I could still chip it, but as soon as that ball starts to sit down, you can't chip it. Now, a couple other things to consider. Usually you gotta be pretty close to the same surface of the green. You can see if I walk up here, it's just a little bit uphill, but I really don't have to loft the ball up in the air that much. So what is happening between the ball and say the front of the green, and then from there, the front of the green to your flag stick. And you can see where this flag is here, you know, I don't have that much green for the ball to run out. So I've got my lob wedge here, and I can come in here and just hit a little chip shot like this, land it on the front of the green, and look at that. It's gonna run out just like that. Now, I like lob wedge, sand wedge for some of those short chips. And as I mentioned in that other video there, the pitching wedge, right? That's your 1-to-1 ratio. Watch this here. It's gonna run out, same shot, lands on the front, and look at that, it's chasing into the middle of the green. And then here's my 8-iron. I could use my 8-iron and let it run all the way towards the back of the green, right? So those are just good examples. Try to have 2 or 3 clubs to chip with. Make sure you have a good lie, right? Make sure you've got a pretty flat surface and some greens to work with. Now, what about if we start getting up in the rough? Got a great video coming to you from Kyle. He missed the green, but he was in the rough in a very difficult situation. Kyle, what do you got?
Hey Travis, my name's Kyle. I'm from Albany, California. Got myself up here on the hill. Pretty difficult lie up above the flag. If I could get some pointers on a shot like this, that would be great. Thanks.
All right, Kyle, let me see if I can help you here. First off, thank you for sending this situation, because we get in these situations right around the green, pretty severe slope there, but I saw you had a little bit of green to work with. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open the face just a little bit, and we're not going to play the ball that far back in your stance. As you can see, you've got that ball position probably outside of your right foot, okay? And we're going to play it inside, just inside of the right foot, and that'll soften the shaft lean here a little bit. So we're going to get that situated first, and then the second thing is we're going to get your shoulders. As you can see, your shoulders are kind of on this angle, and the slope is going down on this angle. So I'm going to show you how to get your shoulders a little bit more on that line, which will be consistent with the slope line. Now, I think once we do that, we'll be able to get this wrist hinge just a little bit more pronounced, but this is good here. You know, nothing wrong with this. And then from there, with that wrist hinge a little bit more pronounced, which will put the club head a little more up in here, then we can swing down. You do a nice job keeping your wrists firm. You can see how the shaft's still in line with your left arm. And then I'm going to encourage you to kind of turn and make sure that your weight stays on your lead foot, okay? So you got a lot of good things going here. We're going to clean up the setup, get this wrist hinge just a little bit better, and then get you to turn your chest down that slope line with that weight on the front foot.
All right, here we are. So I've got this situation there, Kyle, as you were talking about, to walk up the hill here, going down this slope, and I've got to hit a little chip, but I got to give it a little wrist hinge too to get it back down that slope and running out to the green. All right, so I'm coming over to you, Darren. This is what I want to do. We're going to play the ball position back in this stance like this, and I want you don't get it too far back, right? That's how you had it. You had it way outside here with that shaft way forward. That gets real sticky. That's tough. So go ahead and play it just inside the right foot. Get the weight on the front foot, and then get your shoulders more in line with the slope like this. So your shoulders are going this way, the shaft's just a little bit forward, and then from there we're going to give it just a little bit of wrist hinge. We're going to give that little wrist hinge up, and then just kind of swing it down that slope line, right? You can even kick that right knee in a little bit if you want to. Hinge it up, and then down that slope line. So here we go. Just inside the trail foot, weights on the front foot, shoulders in line, little wrist hinge, and look at this. Gonna just chip it down there and then just get it running, and I'll take that just inside 4 feet. And I hit that with my 54-degree wedge. So I kind of like that, gets you a little bit of loft and you can run it down. You could probably even use your 50. So we did some chipping, no hinge. We get up around into these slopes. We got to give it a little wrist hinge and go with it. 2 different types of shots, and I think that's going to help a lot of you at home. All right, we've done some driving, we've done some chipping. Now I got to walk down this hill here and get onto that putting green. Let's talk about some putting. And to kick it off, we're going to look at one more here, show us your swing, and this one's coming from Chris in California.
Hey Travis, this is Chris. I'm from Berkeley, California. I need some help with putting. Probably you'll fix my stroke a little bit too, but in particular I want to get some advice on putting, like on an off-camber downhill. I don't know if you can see on camera, but the green here is like slightly downhill, which always makes me nervous about like going past the green, but it's also kind of tilted to the left. So I want to know, like, how far should one aim? Do you use like 1 cup over, 2 cups over? How extreme does one get? So here's my putt. Speed was good. I missed.
All right, good stuff, Chris. Appreciate you sending in your video. I'm going to show you something here in a moment on how much break to play and what goes into that. A couple things here in your setup. I think if you back up from the ball a little bit and you get your feet a little wider and stand up a little taller, I think that'll get you in a more balanced setup position. In addition to that, I wouldn't lean that putter shaft too far forward here. You can see before you go back, you kind of give it the old forward press, and that's quite a bit of forward press. So I would encourage you to keep it pretty neutral here at address. Now, it looks like the path of the club head is doing some good things. It's pretty symmetrical as far as how far back you take it and how far through you take it. And you can see that ball kind of bounce there a little bit, and I think some of that comes from that forward shaft lean in the putter. All right, so we can take some of that out, and I think it'll help make the ball roll a little bit easier and a little smoother. But it's nice and symmetrical. But I think because you take it back so far, you have to decelerate a little bit. So as you come into it, the length of that stroke for that particular length putt, you're probably putting the brakes on through here. All right, and that can cause some inconsistency in the strike and cause you to lose some distance control. So I'm going to show you what I want you to do at address. We're going to shorten up this backstroke a little bit so you can accelerate coming through, and I think that'll really help your stroke. Okay, so let me show you that, and then a couple tips on how much break to play.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for the putting video. Here's what I want you to do with your putting setup. The first thing is I want you to give yourself a little bit of room, maybe about 3 putter lengths, 2.5 to 3. That's where I want you to stand, somewhere in there. And then from there, you can stand up a little bit taller, and you can bring this putter shaft up a little bit and then kind of roll your elbows in, okay? So you don't get so close, and then you kind of get down in this way, right? Back up, stand up taller, and that's gonna give you some room in here where your hands can swing a lot freer underneath your shoulders. Now, in addition to that, I want you to take the putter shaft, and I don't want you to lean it so far forward. I want you to make that putter shaft a little bit more neutral, and then you can go ahead and make your stroke a little bit shorter on both sides. You're taking the putter head way back for that length of putt and then way through, and there's a deceleration phase probably there with the putter head. So use your feet. Maybe just kind of take the putter head just outside your right foot and then just past your left foot, and you'll feel the putter head wanting to accelerate a little bit better through the strike. So here we go. All right, so we're gonna get our setup here. Putter shaft, pretty neutral. Gonna back up a little bit so we can stand up a little bit taller. Elbows are kind of rolled in. And then we're gonna make that nice putting stroke a little tighter on both sides. And there it is, right? Just like that, and you're gonna make more putts. Now, you also had a really good question about breaking putts, and I wanna share with you an experience that I had last week on breaking putts. Check it out. Here we are, 16th green, putting. I'm not gonna talk about the stroke. We're gonna talk about a little greens reading. I've got about a 12-footer here down the hill, and I wanna share with you just a little streamlined process that I like in using your eyes and your feet. All right, so we're gonna read this putt right here, and just gonna walk in here, and I'm gonna straddle the line here for a second. See my feet on both sides, and I'm trying to feel which side is higher. And as I stand here, I feel like my right foot is a little bit higher, and if I were to walk in here about midway through and I was to kind of straddle the line, I got my feet a little bit wider now, I still feel that. I can take a stroll down here and look back up, right? And my eyes are beneficial. Like, I can use my eyes as I walk back around to the other side here. Start to look back this way again. Using my eyes here, and of course we can get down here. That's a good look at the putt there. So my eyes, I don't sense as much right to left with my eyes. But as I get in here and I use my feet, I sense a little bit more right to left. So I'm gonna go ahead, trust my feet here a little bit, and I'm going to play this putt about a ball on the outside, right to left. All right, little driving, little chipping, little putting. We're covering it all here on the Stripe Show this week, and it's time now to go to the social media timeline, a little mailbag, and we've got a few questions coming in. First one here, Sam from Atlanta. Which wedges should I have in my bag as a middle handicap golfer? That's a good question. Probably depends how many you have on the top end, right? How many hybrids, long irons are you covering into your fairway woods? If you're heavy on that side, then you're probably gonna have to go 3 wedges on the bottom side. If you got room, then maybe you go 4 wedges. I would say at least 3. You need your pitching wedge. You need a sand wedge, right? And then maybe a gap wedge in there. So if you go 3 wedges, try to get into that maybe 46, 50, 56 kind of combination. If you go 4 wedges, then you can bring in that 60 degree. The 58's a good alternative in there as well. If you can go 58 somewhere there and get the ball up in the air around the greens, then that's something to consider as well. But I'd say at least 3, depending upon how many on the top end, you could probably go 4. Now, good question. Terry in Pittsburgh. I hear a lot of instructors and articles talking about exposing the bounce. What does that mean? Stay right there, John. I'm going to show them something here. exposing the bounce. The bounce is the difference between the leading edge and the trailing edge. You can see if I kind of got the club going this way, that's kind of up on the leading edge. And then if I set it more neutral, right, that club's going to be sold from the leading edge to the trailing edge and from the toe to the heel, and that's how much bounce is built in. So to expose bounce, what you want to do is you opening the club face up just a little bit can help. The second thing is keeping the shaft pretty conservative and not leaning it so far forward. What happens when we take away the bounce is we get the shaft going too far forward this way, right? So we get that leading edge on the ground, and as that leading edge gets on the ground with the face squared, then we start getting that, right? So if I was to hit that ball with a lot of forward shaft lead, you can see I trapped it pretty darn good, but that leading edge got caught in the ground, and we don't want that. Okay, it's funny, like when I was growing up, that was a shot that I hit all the time, that leading edge trap shot. So to get that leading edge off the ground, we're gonna set it a little bit more neutral with the face open, and now we get a little bit more of the bounce. Look at that, so it pops it up in the air a little bit higher, and you can see just a little bit more of a bruising divot. And if you get into those lob shots, you can really lean the shaft a little bit more back, and that'll really expose the bounce. So I like that neutral shaft alignment. That'll expose some bounce. 56-12 is a good club to hit your pitch shots with around the green. And we've got one more. My phone is buzzing. So we've got Howard Allison from Facebook. How do I eliminate chili dips? You know what? I think I might have just eliminated them. In fact, I would even go pitching wedge, and with the pitching wedge, what I would do is take the club shaft, set it very upright, lean it just slightly forward, with the lead wrist just a little bit cupped. I'll say that again. Pitching wedge, lean it upright, slightly forward, lead wrist slightly cupped, and then from there, just use your shoulders back and through. Don't give it a lot of wrist hinge. Just keep that little dish in the lead wrist, use your shoulders back and through it like an extended putting stroke, and I think you'll find that leading edge gets off the ground and you start bruising the ground, your confidence goes up, and those chili dips go away. I want an update from you three on if that works or not, and if it doesn't, well, we're gonna get right back in there and make sure that it does. Great questions, send them in every single week. You can send to them on Twitter at 18Birdies app. You can email them to us, the Stripe Show at 18birdies.com. Of course, that's where you can send your videos. And for a little bit more information on that, check this out.
Hey there, Travis Fulton here with the Stripe Show, 18 Birdies, and I want to help you with your game. And all you have to do is submit a swing video and send it to the Stripe Show at 18birdies.com. Now, in that video, I want three things. First and foremost, I want to know who you are and where you're from. And then secondly, how can I help you with your game in 1 to 2 sentences? And then finally, film that swing from 1 or 2 camera angles. Face on, just like this, or from down the target line, just like this. So here's how it works, a good sample. Hey, I'm Travis Fulton from Ponte Vedra, Florida, and I would like some help with my driver. My tendency is I hit it a little too high, and ever so often it slices off to the right. So I'd appreciate any help that you could give me. Here we go.
Thanks so much for joining us here on the Stripe Show. I'm your host, Travis Fulton, and you know what? Next week, we're taking the Stripe Show on the road. We're going to MAM the Monday after the Masters Darius Rucker's event. We're going to be on the range all week with all the celebrities. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be bringing you some good interviews and a lot more terrific instruction. Check us out next Monday, 3 to 4, same time Eastern on 18 Birdies Facebook Live. But before we leave, I've got one more treat for you, one more putt for you. Check this out.